weekend, since the England lockdown was lifted, millions of shoppers hit the high streets to catch up on their Christmas shopping. In fact, that's Harrods, but we just saw Regent Street, which was closed to cars because they were trying to ensure social distancing. As you can see, that didn't happen. Top retailers have warned a third of British brands will disappear by March after an 80% plunge in footfall. Fortnum Mason Chief Executive Ewan Venters said the government's new tier system will dampen trade and could prove fatal for many retailers. And Ewan joins us now, along with chef Angela Hartnett, who is calling on the government to introduce a hospitality minister to protect pubs and restaurants. Very good morning to you both. Ewan Venters, I mean, the trouble is, of course, we open up retail, and of course that means it's a green light for people to flood back, which is good for retailers and terrible for the virus. How is Fortnum's coping at the moment?
Well, good morning. There is a green light to get shopping again, of course, but we must do so responsibly. And I was here this weekend in Fortnum's Piccadilly and witnessed some very sensible customers behaving impeccably well, queuing up in a responsive way with masks on outside of the store, flowing through the store beautifully. We're marshalling both the inside of the store and the outside of the store. I hear some retailers saying we're good whilst customers are in the shop, but what they do outside is their own business. No, that's not good enough. So our teams are very much outside marshalling customers through in a safe way. But remember, footfall may be recovering, but this weekend we saw footfall only get to 50% of last year's numbers. So still a dramatic fall year on year. But it is essential that I think we get the economy going again.
Ewan, you've been very apocalyptic about what you think is going to happen to retail businesses. You think maybe 35, 40% could just not survive this.
Absolutely. And when I said that comment, Piers, just over a week ago, some people said, gosh, you're rather pessimistic. And then within days, we saw brands like Bon Marché, Philip Green's Empire, Debenhams and others all starting to fold. So sadly, I don't want to be seen as an accurate forecaster on this subject, but sadly, I do think that we're heading for real trouble. The month of January typically sees 70% of insolvencies within the retail sector. And I'm afraid this January is going to be no different.
And what about in restaurants, Angela Hartnett? Because there are so many restrictions, aren't there? And depending what tier you're in, but no restaurant can run at the sort of capacity that they would hope to.
Well, certainly, good morning, both.
Yeah.
Certainly at this time of year, which is when we maximise our profits, because we always know we're going into a January, February, which will be very quiet. We are definitely like 2/3 down. I mean, I was working on Saturday night. Normally on a Saturday night, one of my restaurants, I would be doing 300 plus. This Saturday, with all the restrictions, the tiers we are, the closing times, the congestion charge in London, we did 120, and that's not sustainable when you have to pay full rent, all your suppliers, all your staff. There has to be, they've got to let restaurants, hotels, hospitality open up. And as Ewan said, very carefully. And I think we've proven that in the past, that we can run our businesses with proper COVID measures in place to protect our team.
And you mentioned you're in London, you're in tier 2. So that means that if you've got an outside space, groups of 6 from different households can have dinner. But indoors, you can only have dinner with people in your own household. I mean, are you checking that on the door? Do you think that all restaurants are being absolutely assiduous? When you consider the sort of financial pressure restaurants are under, are they policing that?
I can't speak for every restaurant, Susanna. I can say that we always say to all our customers when they call up, you're fully aware of the guidelines, fully aware of the rules. I'm not going to sit here and say we check everyone's birth certificate and a proof of address when they walk through the door. But also, we don't have anything more than tables of 4 or 2 at the moment. So I would say probably 90% of our customers, if not more, are all one household.
I mean, Angela, I really feel for the restaurant business because I love going to restaurants, as you know, and you're one of the best chefs in the country. It must be heartbreaking for all of you. But the reality is, you look at these scenes at the weekend, and my heart sank because we're only a few months away from hopefully being vaccinated here and being out of this tunnel. But you see thousands of people cramming in at the first opportunity. Then we've got this 5-day Christmas at home. And I can't for the life of me understand why 3 households all getting together in big numbers for a 5-day hoolie at Christmas is allowed, but you can't go and do that in a restaurant like yours.
Well, I mean, this is the logic of what the government have been doing. You know, I absolutely agree with you, Piers. You know, I've sat there and said, you know, we always have a big Christmas. We're going to be 6 of us. We're all in one bubble. But yet I can't go to my restaurant. I can't open up my restaurant. You know, it makes no sense. As you previously said, and your guest did, we're so near a vaccine. Why are they doing that? And to me, it feels like just political brownie points, you know, make the public love us as MPs.
Yeah, I totally agree. Ewan, I mean, you're moving on from Fortnum's after an incredibly successful reign, but you've obviously, I presume, you've never known a tougher time right now for retail. What is your advice? I mean, you've done incredibly well during the pandemic, but so many businesses are really up against the wall. What is your advice for this kind of ultimate crisis management?
Well, it's about being agile and flexible at all times. It's listening to your customers, responding to their needs, making your business more and more of a destination. You know, in the activities that might be in store, the product offer, the service offer. You know, it's going more important than ever. Retailers are going to have to differentiate in the way they present their offer, as well as, of course, being as digitally enabled as possible. I mean, there's lots of talk about, you know, just how strong online sales will be in the future, and I'm sure that's largely true. But there is still a really robust place for shops and high streets to reimagine how they present themselves to the world. And it's going to take some really clever, creative people to do that thinking.
Ewan, last week there was a huge row over Scotch eggs. Angela Hartnett will know about this well, because, of course, lots of venues could only serve alcohol if that was with a substantial meal. And the definition of substantial meal centred on whether a Scotch egg fulfilled that criteria. You had got in touch with Piers to say that the Scotch egg was all down to Fortnum's. Just remind us of its origin.
Well, back in Fortnum started in 1707, but in 1738, our very clever, innovative chefs developed a snack in response to our customers' needs. And our customers then, very often the landed gentry, the aristocracy, who would call into Fortnum's in their horse and carriages to pick up their provisions. And they wanted a snack that they could hold in their hand, the ultimate handheld snack, one might say, in order that they could nourish themselves on their journey to their country estates. So hence the Scotch egg was invented. And
how many Scotch eggs have you been selling since all this Scotch egg gate erupted?
Oh, I think Scotch eggs are now 600 or 700% up year on year. Both,
And
is that true? Is that true?
That is absolutely.
That's fantastic. Angela, are you now serving the gourmet Hartnett Scotch egg?
I'm afraid I'm not, actually, but I can tell you 2 amazing pubs that are. So if you want those names.
I saw somebody tweeting probably a spoof. I hope it was a spoof, but it was a bill from a pub, and it was 1 Scotch egg, you know, £4.50, 50 bottles of Peroni, 623 quid. I'm sure there's a lot of people pushing the Scotch egg to its nth degree.
Oh, well, thanks both very much indeed. And Ewan, I'm just going to have a little rummage around.
We've both got a Scotch egg from Fortnum's here.
Let's. Usually I can find
Mine was a little bit of
egg.
Piccadilly, I think, which is appropriate given you are in Piccadilly.
Freshly cooked this morning, I think.
There we go.